Yeah, do you want me to read the intro and then you pass over?
Yeah, I'll hand over to you and I'll just do a quick welcome and then I'll hand over to you if that's all right.
Yeah.
Just let me know when you're ready to go.
Ready?
Okay. Welcome to the Penrith Town Council meeting for Monday the 25th of January 2021, our first one for the new year. So happy new year to everyone I haven't spoken to already. I'm just going to hand over quickly to Ian just to say a couple of things about why we're meeting like this still.
Yeah, thank you. Due to current restrictions in place, this meeting will be a virtual meeting and therefore will not take place in a physical location. The meeting will be held virtually via video conferencing. Therefore, this is a meeting in public, not a public meeting. The local authorities and police and crime panels, brackets coronavirus, bracket flexibility of local authority and police and crime panel meetings, England and Wales Regulations 2020 came into force on 4th of April 2020. Section 78 of the 2020 regulations enables local councils to hold remote meetings, including by video and telephone conferencing, for a specified period until May next year. Regulations apply to local council meetings, committees and subcommittees. To you, Mr. Chair.
Doug, you're muted.
Start, isn't it? Okay, so I'm just going to quickly do a roll call and check to make sure that everybody else is here. So please just respond to your name as I call your name out. Councillor Bergin. No Councillor Bergin. Okay, Councillor Clark.
Here, present.
Thank
No
you.
declarations of interest.
Thank you. Councillor S. Clark. No. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, no interest declaration.
Thank you. Councillor Donald.
Present.
Councillor Fallows.
Yeah, present and no interest declaration.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins.
Yeah, present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Present. Thank you.
Councillor Kenyon.
Not present.
Okay. Councillor Nags.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
So C. Shepherd, present.
Yeah, and Councillor M. Shepherd.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Snell.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, we also have Ian Parker in attendance and our Deputy Town Clerk as well. And Paul Foote is here. And Carol's here too. Excellent. So we've got a full complement of officers to help me out. Before we start the meeting, can I just make sure that you all muting your microphones when you're not talking, that you are adhering to the Council Code of Conduct, General Standing Orders and Meeting Etiquette Guidance to support me as I manage the meeting. Only unmute when you're being invited to speak. Speak clearly and look into the camera as often as you're able. Please make sure that if you've got a phone with you that it's on silent. Be aware that there's a time lag sometimes on these Zoom calls, so give people plenty of time to respond if you're addressing somebody directly. Please make sure that you introduce yourselves when you speak so that anybody from the public is aware of who you are. I'm also going to ask officers at regular points throughout the meeting if anybody wishes to speak, and the officers will introduce you by name so you know when it's your time to talk. Please respond to me if I call your name, and be aware that some attendees may have joined by telephone and may not be visible. So the first item on our agenda, actually before we get to the agenda, can I just mention that we have an additional late item number 14 about the Borderlands Place programme town team, which I'll slot in at the end just before we say our goodbyes. But other than that, the agenda is as was sent out. You should all have had the extra item. Councillor Davis, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, can I just query, Chair? I know normally the full council meetings get recorded and we have a symbol in the corner. They don't appear to be today. I'm just wondering whether it's been recorded or not.
I've got a symbol that is being recorded as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, yeah, can I report to Councillor Davis? It is recording, and can I also report for members' attention that also Jack Jones, RFO, is in the meeting as well.
Oh, I do beg your pardon. He's not showing on my screen for some reason. Oh, because he's on the phone. Okay. Tripped over my own advice there. My apologies, Jack. Okay, so item number 1 on our agenda then is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we've received apologies for absence from Councillor Donald and Councillor Kenyon.
Okay, Donald and Kenyon. Okay. As a matter of formality, I have to ask that everybody is happy to accept those apologies. I'm going to suggest we do that with a show of hands rather than read everybody's name out. Is everybody happy to accept the apologies? Thank you. Duly noted. Item number 2 is to authorise me to sign as a correct record the minutes of the meeting the full council held on Monday the 30th of November and agree that they be signed as such when permissible. I'm going to read out and propose that members approve the minutes for virtual full council as a true and accurate record, and then just I'll agree to sign them when I'm able to do so. Can I ask somebody to second that motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Jackson and Councillor Snell as well. Excellent.
I actually had a question.
Oh, okay, Councillor Snell, what's the question?
The minutes, I wanted to just check under the minutes when there was a report back. I gave a report back from a planning meeting that I went to at Eden District Council, and they left off that the reason I reported back on it was that I gave a presentation and it was a really positive outcome, but the bit positive outcome was left out, and I think it's quite important that that's registered.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Snell.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we can add that amendment, that addition in.
Okay. Do I need to go through any particular process to do that, or are we happy to just accept that?
We'll be happy to accept that.
Okay.
Chair, members have to agree that they're happy to accept them.
Okay. Okay. Can I just have a show of hands then that you're happy to accept that amendment? Thank you. Okay. So I need somebody to second the motion to accept the minutes now. Thank you, Councillor Davis, for seconding. So I'm just going to read out each member in turn then, and if you can say for or against. So Councillor Clark, this is to accept the minutes. You're on mute, Margaret.
I'll have to abstain because I wasn't at the meeting.
Fair enough, thank you. Councillor Davis.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Donald. Oh no, we've had apologies from him, sorry, I do beg your pardon. Councillor Fallows.
For.
Councillor Hawkins.
For.
Councillor Jackson.
For.
Councillor Naggs.
For.
Thank you. Councillor C. Shepherd.
For.
And Councillor M. Shepherd.
For.
Councillor Snell.
For.
Thank you. That's duly passed. Okay, item number 3 is public participation. This is the opportunity for the public to make representations if they wish to do so. Do we have anything from the public before we move to reports from district and county councillors?
We've had nothing from the public, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll move to county councillors next. Do we have any county councillors who wish to make representations?
County Councillor Bell has made a request to speak.
Okay, Councillor Bell, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I wanted to start by thanking the Town Council for objecting to the Persimmon application, which was to vary the conditions on their previous permissions, because those variations would see a delay in opening the Spine Road and the start of the bus service and the closure off of the parklands by a year. I'm sure residents will be very pleased for your support, because many residents have been in touch with me with their concerns. Folk were expecting the bus service to start. Okay, I know we don't have a bus service just at the moment, but it's going to take some time to organise. And up there on the Persimmon estate, there are a lot of people who actually feel very isolated from the town, and particularly in the bad weather, it would have been brilliant if they could have got on the bus in order to get in. And there's also the issue of the increased number of car journeys that will happen because we don't have a bus service. Persimmon, by their own admission, have built enough houses to actually meet the original target. And in that original planning permission, they were asked to prioritise the building of the spine road and the houses on the spine road so that the road could open safely. And it just looks as if they have just completely ignored that. The problems, the traffic problems on the parklands have definitely been exacerbated by the increase of traffic from phase 1. The delay in opening the spine road is almost certainly behind the site depot not moving. So there are a lot of residents living in houses that are completed that find themselves in the middle of a building site. And in the original conditions, it said really clearly that residential amenity was really important. So thank you again for your support on this matter for the residents. On a more positive note, Persimmons have now agreed to provide winter grit to residents. It's always a bit of a problem when a development hasn't been adopted and the Persimmon estate is a long way from adoption. But they say they've ordered some grit bins, and so fingers crossed they will be introduced soon. The second thing I wanted to talk about was footpaths. I know that many town councillors have expressed a real interest in footpath improvement, particularly Councillor Kenyon. The Countryside Access team have been in receipt of grants for the coastal path and for the Lancashire Canal, and the government were not willing to extend the deadlines for those grants, and so to avoid having to send money back, all efforts have been concentrated on getting those projects finished and the money spent. And of course, during COVID times, they can't work as quickly as they might have done. So that's why the promised footpath improvements in the Penrith area have been delayed. The good news is that they're hoping to be certainly starting on the Scores footpaths in May, and we look forward to some significant improvements. If councillors want to know any more about that, if you'd like to email me, I've been working really closely with Chris Graham, who's the Countryside Access Officer. He's very passionate about his job. And so we've talked about all sorts when we've met. So happy to help if people would like more information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Patricia. Councillor Clark, did you have a question for
it's really a comment to Councillor Bell. First and foremost, I'm wondering if she's aware that, as far as I know, because I had a query from a resident regarding the provision of grit bins, and I got in touch with Eden District Council, and they told me that as such it was so far not a adopted road, but Persimmon had been rather slow in getting it adopted as a highway, hence the non-provision of grit bins.
Margaret, it's none of the estate will be adopted until it's completely finished, and that is many, many months off. So all the while it's not adopted, then the developer is responsible for those health and safety things, and that's what we need to be asking for. So I've double checked on that, Margaret, very, very recently. And phase 1, which is the most finished bit, even that has not been adopted.
Right.
Mr. Chair, can I just interject that this is for county councillors and district council provide updates and not for question and debate.
Okay. Thank you, Ian. Okay.
Passing.
Okay. I can see another hand up. I'm wondering if Councillor Davis was just about to point out the same thing, or if he had a comment to make briefly.
Yeah, it was just, well, actually I had a question as such, but it wasn't a question. It was just to highlight the fact that I would have expected some further reports from Councillor Bell regarding the Green Garth demolition, which we don't appear to have had any consultation or any involvement on. And it now appears that the building's going to get demolished. I know Councillor Bell supported that with a letter that I've seen supporting the County Council's plans. It just appears none of the County Councillors have commented when they've been giving us any reports to the Parish Council on this.
Can I come back, Chair, please? Because this is a matter
just
of
very
public
briefly.
information.
Yeah.
Councillor Davies, you may or may not be aware that there's a planning consultation to which all councillors can respond. It's on the County Council website, and it concerns the demolition of that building. So if you would like to have a look at that and comment, and if you have any questions, I'd be really happy to answer them. What the planning application says is that they would like to demolish the building, take away absolutely everything is there except the trees, and to grass the area over. And that's a temporary solution because before COVID, discussions did start about the site, but obviously people are tied up in actually managing the day-to-day business, and so it hasn't been possible to continue those, and that's why that action's been taken. And the last thing we want is for the building to fall into disrepair and to look absolutely terrible. So it should look good when they've finished and when the grass is grown. But happy to talk to you privately if you would like some more information.
I'll take up on that, thank you very much. But if I can just point out, we have been told today that it's not open to consultation. The County Council have said there isn't any consultation taking place. But I will be in touch about it, thank you.
Yeah,
the consultation is on the planning application, and the County Council, it's a matter of day-to-day business. Had you needed to know some more information, I'd be happy to supply it. But you haven't been in touch, and so I have been unable to do that. And it isn't really a matter of public consultation as to what happens to a building in that particular instance. Chair, I apologise here, but people will know that the Care Quality Commission would not re-register it as a care home or anything similar, because frankly the building just wasn't fit for purpose. And before the County Council took a decision to demolish it, believe me, there were many internal discussions about whether the building could be converted into anything else that we might need, including considering whether it could possibly be used for COVID positive people that needed to be discharged from hospital that no longer needed acute care. But it just was not possible, and hence the planning application to demolish.
Thank you. I think if there's any further discussion to be had, it can be done offline. That has been helpful, though. Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Carrick, did you wish to make a statement of some sort or some sort of report?
Yes, please, Chair.
Okay,
it's just an update. It's Town Council will be aware that you were consulted recently on 2 traffic regulation orders about improvements, traffic improvements around town, one relating to Portland Place and the other one relating to the Sawford Road, Inglewood Road junction. Just like to thank you for responding to the consultation in your own right, and to advise you that certainly for the Sawford Road, Inglewood Road consultation, there were a number of people responded with comments. The concerns, if you will, at the proposal as presented were, not surprisingly, speed of traffic turning off the A6, potential congestion at the junction arising from the spur at the bottom of Inglewood Road being blocked up, and also people turning out of Inglewood Road on the north side of Inglewood Road onto Sorkeld Road, and whether or not they'd be able to get out safely with the speed of the vehicles around the corner, and also with the potential backup, having additional traffic at the junction. Comments were duly made at Eden Local Committee, which was last Wednesday. As the local member for there, I supported those objections. The design is being taken away to be redesigned. So it's just to let you know, there will be a further consultation on the new design proposals for it. But just to thank you very much for responding to the consultation and to report back that your comments have duly been taken into account and an amended design will be produced. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carrick. Do we have any district councillors that wish to make representations? I can't see any, other than the ones that are part of our own council.
No.
No? Okay. That's that item out of the way. Item 4 is declarations of interest and requests for dispensations. I need to ask you to note that we had a further resolution PTC 2082 agreed on the 30th of November that Councillors Clark, S. Clark and C. Shepherd have a 6-month dispensation effective from the 13th of January and expiring on the 13th of July. Obviously, it's very nice to see Margaret here today, so that one's ticked off. Everybody else seemed to make some sort of declaration at the start. Can I just ask, is there anybody who didn't make a declaration at the start and who wishes to do so now? Any declaration of interest or any dispensation requirements? If you can raise your hand now. No, okay. In that case, we'll move on to item 5, which is to determine whether any items should be considered without the presence of the press and public pursuant to section 1(2) of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, as publicly relating to that any other matters may be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of confidential nature of the business to be transacted or for other special reasons noted in relation to that matter on the agenda. I don't believe there are any items specifically. However, I would like to note that item 10 on our agenda has a sub-item 3, which is to approve salary payments for our staff, which are on pink paper. If everybody's happy that they're not going to mention any specific figures, then we have no reason for that item to cause us to have to exclude anybody. Is everybody happy with that? I just have a show of hands that you've all understood. Okay. And I'll just briefly, Ian, is there any other items that I'm not aware of that might need us to exclude the public?
It was just that item 10.3 you referred to there.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next item then is item 6, which is a report from me. Obviously, with lockdown and all the restrictions in place, there's not been an awful lot for me to do in terms of getting out and about and doing the kinds of things that I usually would be doing. So I would just like to take a couple of minutes just to note, first of all, that I did write to the papers, and there is an ongoing campaign to encourage people to shop locally. And as I always do, I would encourage people to continue to do so. We're past Christmas now, but the shopkeepers still need all the business they can get. So please, as safely as you're able to do, and as often as you're able to do, please use the many local businesses that we have as to whatever provision they have. And I also just wanted to quickly note a couple of other things. One of them is the activities going on at UCC to repurpose laptops and other gadgets for school children. If any of you are aware of anybody who has any of those, then there is details on our Facebook page and on our website. Please, if you do have any old kit lying around, they're doing a very good job of refurbing and sending that out to people who need it. And lastly, just a word about mental health. These are and the word's being overused a lot, but these are extraordinary times. And I don't believe that anybody should be ashamed to admit that they're having a hard time. Please, if you are struggling with your mental health, again, there are many, many contacts on our website and on the Facebook page. Please do all you can to stay safe and to look after yourselves during these difficult times. That's all I have to say for the minute. Item number 7 is reports from members. Do any of our members have any reports they wish to give. Councillor Naggs?
I think I've got it at the right time in the agenda. There's the neighbourhood development plan was on the agenda of it. I haven't got it. I'm looking at two screens at once. So
we actually have that down as item 9. That comes a little bit later, Councillor
Okay.
Naggs.
Okay, fair enough.
And prior to the meeting, Mr. Chair, Councillor Charlie Shepherd's expressed a wish to speak at item 7.
Okay, over to you then, Councillor Shepherd.
Right. As the nominated or appointed member to the Friends of the Coronation Gardens, I have a few comments on the Coronation Gardens. Am I coming over loud and clear?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. First, positive, very positive. EDC have accepted the designation of the gardens as a community asset, which I think is a good step in the right direction. The Friends have worked very much with Eden District Council to improve the maintenance regime of the gardens, and there's still work to do. I have a meeting as soon as COVID allows. A lot of extra work's been done to improve the gardens by the community gardens for Eden with some funding from Rotary. So it really is a community effort there. We have one negative. We're very concerned about the current EDC proposal for updating, rebuilding, or whatever you call it, Vereda House, particularly as it seems to involve significant changes to the boundary between the Coronation Gardens and Vereda House. Mainly, it appears to be lowering the wall a lot and putting a fence on the top so that it will reduce the amount of the tranquility and the peaceness and the isolation of the garden. But that will be coming up. I'll be making my point at the planning meeting, which I believe is going to cover this, the next planning meeting. But it's nothing to do with what they're doing with Vereda House, it's what they're doing with the junction that we're worried about. That I will keep that in, I'll be bringing that to planning on Monday. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Ian, were there anybody else, any other representations that you're aware of?
Not received pre-meeting, but if you would like to go around, Mr. Chair, that might be useful.
Okay. Okay, so Councillor Clark, anything for you to report?
None whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Davis, anything from you?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fallows?
Nothing really to report, although I would like to say that I did have a number of residents did contact me about the Persimmon Homes issue that was discussed earlier, and they were pleased that the decision of the planning committee to oppose that move. So I don't get contacted a lot by tenants, so I thought I would by residents, so I thought I would mention it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hawkins.
Nothing very much at all, just to say that, just to echo what you've said, Chair, about the donator device scheme that's running at Ullswater Community College, and just to reiterate, if you could pass the word on to as many people that you know, that they are doing a great job of cleaning up devices that are passed on to them, and then are nominating and finding homes for them very quickly. And just to say that my own school had I think it was £1.5, might have been £2,500 given to us by Penrith Building Society to buy devices, which is, I just think people might be interested to know that. And also just a member of the public gave us £1.5 grand as well, which is incredible. Amazing. And the only other thing I needed to say was a resident had contacted me, and again, it's quite a rare occurrence, to complain about the bins being full on the public bins on the Scores estate being full of dog poo and overloaded basically with litter, etc. And what could we do about it? And I, kind of reassured her as best as I could, but I know it's not our responsibility, but I just wanted to mention it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Jackson, anything from you today?
Nope, nothing of interest. Nothing at all, really.
Okay, Councillor Naggs, apart from the item that you're going to speak to in a moment, is there anything else that you want to talk about right now?
Yeah, I just want to say it's good news from Councillor Carrick about the bottom of Saltcold Road. A couple of local people have spoken to me about that with exactly the same points, but didn't formally make a complaint about it, although I encouraged them. So that's really good news. The only bit about that that I didn't catch was that I believe there was an issue about speeding down the Inglewood Road, and that it would be good to have some traffic calming towards the bottom. That wasn't mentioned in the feedback, but that would be good as well. But anyway, really good news from Councillor Carrick.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Shepherd.
Nothing from me, Doug.
Thank you. And Councillor Snell.
Yes, I just wanted to feedback that the residents of a care home in Castletown actually contacted me to see how they go about getting a seat for their residents on the bus route into town. And that seat has been put in, and someone contacted me the other day to thank me very much for putting it forward to Ian, who I know has worked really hard to make sure it happened, and it's happened, and the residents are very pleased.
Brilliant news. Thank you, Councillor Snell. I will just, I don't really have a spot here, and I've already had my part to do my report, but I will just mention one thing that has been mentioned to me with regard to light pollution around Penrith. I've not had a chance to look at the issue in detail yet. It was only yesterday that I picked up the email, but I understand that there's a number of people concerned about the amount of light that's being emitted from businesses around Penrith. So I'm going to try and dig into that over the next few weeks and see if there's something that we can do about it. Okay, so that's item 7 out of the way. Item 8 is the resolutions report to receive and note a written report. Ian, who's presenting that for us?
Mr. Chair, just to receive and note. So anybody, all matters are completed. Land at Thackerbeck easement is currently ongoing, and the slow waste project is ongoing as well.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. Item 9 then is the neighbourhood plan, and I'll hand over to Councillor Naggs, who's the lead member for that, to give us an update. You're on mute, Dave. There you go.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Doug. John Slater, the Independent Planning Inspector, visited Penrith just prior to the lockdown to familiarise himself with the town and the issues mentioned in the neighbourhood development plan. He asked for a meeting with no more than 4 reps on the town council to discuss and consider the specific issues. Although he's agreed to increase this to 5 to enable 1 or 2 sustainability experts that sat on the neighbourhood development plan group to attend. The meeting will take place on the 9th of February, and the town council will be represented by Michael Wellick, who is the planning consultant for the PTC, John Bodger from PACT, and Ro Baker from CAFS. The council's sustainability experts on the NPD group are Councillor Jackson, who's the chair of the planning committee. From the inception to the finalisation of the document, Ros Richardson, who is the lead officer responsible for the creation of the consultation, research, admin and implementation of the plan. So there will be the reps, and once the formal report is received from the meeting, the information will be shared with both the planning committee and the full council. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Councillor Naggs. Okay. Okay, that takes us to item 10, which is to consider the approved recommendations from the Council's Finance Committee from their meeting held on the 11th of January. That's our budget, basically, and I have a thing or two to say before we go to the individual items. I'm very pleased to present this budget report to the Town Council. The past 12 months have been very difficult for both the Council and its community, and we've had to adapt to new ways of working to keep our services running and to play our part in supporting the town's residents during the pandemic. While many of the activities that we sponsor and assist with grants have not been able to proceed, we have successfully completed a major improvement scheme to a play area at Fairhill and are progressing an arts and cultural strategy. Although the effects of the pandemic will continue to affect the next year, The proposed budget for 2021-22 provides the framework for the council to continue to continue the progress it has made since its inception and enables it to plan for a sustainable financial future. The proposed funding will give the council the resources and capacity to deliver both existing services and new developments that will benefit our residents and visitors. In May 2019, the council declared a climate and ecological emergency, and it has developed a strategy to make Penrith carbon neutral by 2030. The budget provides £35,300 for the initial costs of delivering this exciting initiative, including the creation of an in-house specialist officer post dedicated to climate change. A further £18,500 of new finance will be directed towards implementing the recommendations of the Arts and Cultural Strategy, together with projects and initiatives to benefit the town. Since its inception, the Town Council has successfully taken over several assets and services from Eden District Council. The Council continues to discuss with the District the further transfer of assets and services, and we intend to play a key role in the expected reorganisation of local government and welcome its challenges. Next year's proposed precept of £450,069 represents a zero increase in council tax. Given the problems of the past year, we feel that an increase would be inappropriate and have managed our finances to meet that aim. A typical household in Penrith with a property valued in Band B will see the Town Council's full council tax maintained at £64.63. representing about £1.24 per week. The Town Council's share of the overall council tax bill is about 4%. However, we believe that we have a far greater impact on the quality of life in Penrith than this small percentage would suggest. Over the coming 5 years, the climate change strategy will require a total of investment of around £189,000. To ensure that this will be affordable, a robust and sustainable financial plan has been developed based on modest rises in council tax, which will grow our services and increase reserves to improve our resilience. The budget process involves a good deal of work, and I'd like to thank Councillor Bergin, the members of the Finance Committee, and council committees and officers for their contributions in developing the budget. This budget enables our council to continue providing quality services for the town and for it to develop its priorities from a sound financial footing. I therefore propose all the recommendations in the budget report and commend them to you. Okay, so I'm just going to read out the items that are on the list and remind you that item number 3 is on pink paper, so we're not to discuss specific figures. The council is recommended to ratify the proposed budget, reserves and investment policies and the precept for the financial year commencing April 1st, 2021. Item 1, to approve the forecast outturn expenditure from 2020-21 of £422,574. Item 2, approve the proposed budget 2021-22 with total expenditure of £515,214. Item 3, to approve staff salary payments for 2021-22, which are on the pink papers. Number 4, confirm the allocation of the amount of £53,800 available for financial growth in 21-22 to the items set out in the report. Item 5, approve the additional establishment of a part-time officer on scale SCP3, 21 hours per week on a 5-year fixed term from the 1st of April 2021, with the post being filled as soon as possible after that date. Agree the budgeted transfers to and from financial reserves and the level of financial reserves. Agree the annually reviewed reserves policy and investment strategy for 21-22. Have regard to the advice of the responsible financial officer in relation to the robustness of estimates and the adequacy of reserves. Approve the medium-term financial plan and request Eden District Council to pay the sum of £450,069 to Penrith Town Council as its precept for the year 2021-22, representing, as I said already, a zero increase in council tax. All of these matters have been considered and approved by members of the Council's Finance Committee, and the committee chair, Councillor Bergin, has requested that these matters be brought to the full council for ratification. I'm going to propose that matters 1 to 10 be ratified and provide an introduction in support of the motion, which I've done. And then I'm going to ask for somebody else to second the motion for me, please.
I will, on behalf of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Duly seconded. And now I'm going to ask each member in turn if they have any questions, starting with Councillor Clark. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, well, I do in a sense, because we've been asked to leave the item 3 over till the end of the meeting. So can we really discuss that with item 5? Because which is confirm the establishment of a part-time officer.
Those are two separate items. we can discuss either or both. You can't mention specific sums of money though.
No, I'm well aware of that.
Item 3. But if you have questions that don't, sorry, Jack.
If I could help there,
yeah.
They are 2 separate items indeed.
Right.
The post mentioned at item 5, the brand new post, is not listed on the pink paper, and it would be subject to the salary determined on appointment of that post when it's filled. So if that's any help with the question, that's what I would offer.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah.
Well, since I haven't been privy to a lot of this, I am going to abstain, I'm afraid.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay. Councillor Davis, do you have any questions?
Questions and a couple of points I'd like to make on it, actually. Is it possible we could have a rundown on what's actually being cut in the budget? I know from the original, what finance were looking at, there were some cuts made to various budgeting, such as budget for CCEG, etc. So could we just have a breakdown on what has been cut? Given the fact that we're all going through major tough times, fully agree with not putting anything extra on the preset. It's a pity the district and county councils didn't follow suit. But I'm also concerned that we are cutting potentially funding for growth items to help in the town to recover post-COVID, but yet are creating a role for to, I'm assuming, lead on something within the council that really should be ingrained throughout the council. It shouldn't need an officer to oversee that. As part of the wider actions that we're taking on climate within the town, we've got other groups involved in committees on that, of which some of them have got substantial funding to help deliver a step change in the community, as well as across Cumbria, which includes for officer roles. So I would like to propose that we actually do not create the new role for a climate officer for the town council.
Okay.
Chair, perhaps I could answer the first part of Councillor Davis's question there, which was about what was taken out of the budget. At Finance Committee, we were placed in a bit of a position that made us look at reductions to the proposals prepared for that meeting. The reason was that Eden District Council notified a provisional council tax base that was significantly lower than we expected. Now, that was as a direct result of more households being awarded council tax reduction, in effect a rebate on the council tax bill. It ripples through into the council tax base, and it affects both the council's income and all of the other tiers of local government's income. So we were in a position where we knew that although we had a balanced budget and a balanced medium-term plan, we would have to revisit that to rebalance it and to take account of that reduced income. Exactly at the same time, I found a small error in one of the calculations in the detail of the budget. And I felt that given there were two things to correct, I prefer to do it then. So at Finance Committee, we looked at options to reduce what was effectively a long list of growth items. And if I can read them out, there are 5 items, so it takes a little bit of concentration. The first was the climate change officer, and there was a realization that at this stage in the calendar year, although we'd initially expected the post to be filled from 1st of April, it probably would not happen, and that we should recognise that it be filled as soon as possible after the 1st of April. So we took the decision to say it could be delayed by 3 months in monetary terms only. So an expectation that it could be 3 months late, 1st of July start. That reduced the existing growth list by £7,000. We had 2 lump sum figures, I can't think of a better explanation, 2 block figures put in for projects in the town and for officer time to support projects, those and other projects. We reduced both of those by £2,000 at Finance Committee, 2,000 each. We then reduced the CCEG's base budget by £3,000, £1,000 from each of grants, events and greening. And that was trying to take a small amount, which came out at about 2.5% of CCEG's budget, take a small amount that should not harm those services, particularly in the light of the current situation with the pandemic. We've seen massive underspendings this year, and some of those will continue into next year. And the last item, £2,000, was an adjustment to the contingency provision. Because we tend to underspend at outturn, I think it's reasonable to say we will not need such a large contingency provision. The total of those items, those 5, was £16,000, and that reduced the 21-22 proposed budget. And my view of that was it spread the pain fairly gently across a number of services rather than hit one thing hard. And I proposed something on those lines, and Finance Committee did agree with them.
Okay. I'm going to need a little bit of guidance, I think, from Ian.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mr. Chair, do you want to still keep going around to members to see
get all the questions out of the way first?
Any further questions on the budget as proposed?
Okay, yeah, because then we might have to think about how we handle the motion after that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do that then. So Councillor Fallows, I think, is next. Did you have any questions?
I don't have questions about it. I mean, I think we were presented with plenty of information. I'm confident in what the Finance Committee have put together there, and I thought that the case was made pretty clear for the climate change officer, and that would be for delivering, project leading and delivering on something that the council's committed to. What's been set out for them to do looks like it would be a significant amount of work, and I'm sure would deliver good outcomes for the town. So I don't have questions about it.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins, any questions or comments?
Well, as a member of the Finance Committee, I don't have any questions, and I'm very happy to recommend the budget to the council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Also, as a member of the Finance Committee, I have no questions or comments, but should the amendment find a seconder, I'd like to speak against the amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Naggs, any comments, questions?
My only comment would be after a comment that's already made. I'm glad that we were able to not increase the precept, but I'm also disappointed that the government haven't been more supportive of our district and county council, who have been thrown into crisis because of spending. And I wouldn't blame either the county or the district for having to raise funds to keep the services there for the local community. I just wish the government could come up with more money to support local councils, and I think the crisis will deepen before it improves. So thank you. I agree with all that's been said.
Thank you, Councillor Naggs. Charlie, did you have anything else you wanted to say, Councillor Shepherd?
Yes, I do. In the absence of...
We can't hear you.
Can't you? It says I'm not muted.
Oh, there we go.
can
I
hear
can
you.
hear you now. Can hear you now.
In the absence of Councillor Bergin as the chair and the vice chair of the Finance Committee, I'd like to express my opinions on two elements of this budget. One, which has been not mentioned, I totally support the reduction of the plan for general reserves. Now that Penrith Town Council is a much more established and mature organisation, the planned reserve can easily, safely be reduced from the 50% of income that we were planning for in 2025, I think, down to 35%. And this releases money. I think this is the right thing to do. This releases money to fund the new position of Community Sustainability Officer without affecting the funding for other activities significantly. So I think that was a very good point of the budget. I'm a total supporter of the climate change action and we need to define exactly what we mean by this. One of the first jobs of the new employee would be to identify and categorise the various things that need to be done, and they fall into three groups. One, those that PTC have direct control over. That's our staff, our offices, and the assets that we have control over. Then there are things that we can influence, local items, which are the responsibility of Eden District Council, Cumberland County Council, and we can cooperate with them. Then there's a lot of things like that. And finally, there's the biggies, really, which are things that we can only campaign for improvements. And these are things like building standards, because whatever we say and however we huff and puff, we can't require people to build to standards which are not statutory. And I believe that is where the main thing comes. We should also be looking beyond the Lake District National Park Planning Authority's idea of climate change, climate neutral, which means it only covers those things which they have responsible for, i.e. their buildings, their staff, their transport, and the very small amount of land they own. And they consider when they've done that by 2030, they are climate neutral. The Lake District National Park is climate neutral. And it's not the same thing as being climate neutral. So we need to be very careful we don't convince ourselves. We need to work with other people. But I suppose I should do, because I'm on the Planning Committee, Finance Committee, I do commend this. I think it's a very balanced approach. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Shepherd, any comments or questions?
I just one slight comment. I was a bit concerned about the sustainability officer reporting back, but reading the small print, I see that part of the job would be to report to the planning committee on developments and progress. So I'm happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And Councillor Snell, any questions or comments?
I've just got one question, actually. Under arts and entertainment, it looks like we're going to have an additional 2,500 to increase the funds to complete the arts and cultural strategy. That's on page 33. And then it says, which I just want some clarity around, this is offset by a reduction in officer support. What does that mean?
I can answer that, Chair.
Go ahead,
the strategy was delayed from last year, and it was actually originally budgeted at 7.5, and the tender came in at £10,000 with an enhanced specification. So we're at a stage where we have to find £2,500 to top the original 7,500 up to 10,000. Now, the result of the pandemic is that many headings have underspent, and they affect not only the services you provide, but also officer support to those services. And two key ones are grants and events. So the arts and entertainment side, as well as community grants, will have less officer support this current year because officers have been unable to progress issues. Now, all of that officer support is time worked by staff in addition to their contracted hours. So it's not part of the salaries budget, it's on top of that. And probably the direct effect is that most of it is being spent this current year on the response to the pandemic, and a smaller amount on the parking and movement study in neighbourhood planning. So there's a shift in where officer support would be charged. Overall, there's probably a bit less, not significantly, but a little bit less officer support across all of the services. So the bottom line is that the arts and cultural strategy progresses in full for £10,000. It's got less support to arts and entertainment, but only because of activities other than that strategy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kenyon, I've noticed you've snuck in by the back door. Did you have questions or comments on the budget?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure I could actually add in. No, again, being part of the Finance Committee, I'd like to sort of, support the proposal. As you say, I think the climate officer, it's slightly, I won't say wishy-washy, but it's a very important area we should be looking at. I think to have somebody who is dedicated to that is so important. And I think echoing Charlie's comment about reducing the overall fund for the council to 35% is important as well. So I commend that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kenyon. Ian, we've had one councillor suggest that they wouldn't want to vote on the or they would want to vote against one particular part of the budget. How do we handle that?
If I recall, was Councillor Davies bringing forward an amended proposal, and we'll be seeking somebody to second that amendment initially.
Okay.
Then I propose we vote each item individually.
Okay. The reason I wanted to clarify is that presumably if we get to that stage and that particular item isn't passed, then we've got a budget that doesn't work at all.
Yes, it puts in a difficult position at the moment.
Okay. Councillor Davies.
You need to ask for a seconder first, Mr.
We need a seconder.
Okay.
You need to go to Councillor Davies for his proposal. If you can confirm his proposal, and we'll see whether there's a seconder to support.
Chair,
Councillor Davies.
I would be quite happy opposed to amending what was put before was if we could vote on each item individually rather than en bloc.
Okay.
And then I would withdraw the proposal.
Okay. Is there somebody to second that proposal then?
May I make a similar thing? That's going to be very laborious. Can we just take that item? Can I make my proposal, I think Councillor Davies would go along with probably, is we take item 5 out of it and vote the other items out as a block, the 9, and then discuss item 5 separately. Is that acceptable?
I would second that.
Okay. So we have an amended proposal then that we go through all the other items, or that we vote for all the other items and then vote on item 5 separately.
Chair, I think it would be simpler to do 5 first and then the other items. Because some of the other items are dependent on item 5.
Okay. Thank you, Jack. Okay, so that proposal has been seconded, so we can now discuss that. So we're starting with item 5 then, and we're having a discussion on that one first. Councillor Davies, you're first, I guess.
Yeah, it's not that I don't agree. I fully support the need for what we've already put forward as a council on climate change. It's just I believe we should all be taking ownership of it, not having an officer that the funding could be used elsewhere within the council when we're working with other groups and organisations outside the council, of which some have got funding to deliver an officer role to help with the needs to address climate change in Penrith. So I just feel that possibly we could end up duplicating at the expense of funding that could be spent elsewhere within the council for growth and things such as that by employing an officer, when each and every one from officers, members within the council should be taking on board what we've put forward as a climate change emergency declaration that we did nearly 2 years ago now, that we should be taking it forward collectively, not with a new officer.
Okay. Councillor Clark, did you want to make any comments on this? Have we lost Margaret?
Yeah,
oh,
it's all right.
Still...
I must confess, I'm a bit concerned about the election, what do you call it? a climate change officer. I'm just wondering whether or not it can't be done in-house without expending expenditure for yet another officer. It will be seen by Penrith people, I'm sure that, oh no, we're not spending more money on more officers.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Fallows, did you have any further comments to make?
Yeah, I mean, I mainly said what my view is earlier. I do think it's a good value to take on this officer. I think a good case has been made, and I think just expecting the other officers to just pick it all up, because that's really what it amounts to, is adding to the workload, which I think it's actually been done very well by people. I think someone clearly leading on it, they will deliver plenty of positive things for the town, and I think having people in these positions, and to me, I think it's very clear that it's been carefully considered before being put forward. I think it will deliver well for the town, and I have faith in how that's been considered by the Finance Committee, and how it will work out with the role will remain to be seen. I'm confident to support that going into place. I can only imagine that maybe they'll find that there is more that can be done, and that they have a lot of work. I certainly don't imagine that it could just be done in-house or passed around, or we could just care about the environment. I think there's specific actions that role will take, and it's good value.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins, any further comments?
Just to say that I think there's been a very positive and careful case made out for having a climate officer on board, and I am looking forward to hearing their voice.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, you said you wanted to speak.
Yes, if I may. So there are two options. One, having the additional officer and the 21 hours this would require is counterbalanced by the suggestion that existing officers could take on more of a role. But what that would require, as has been recently alluded to, is more officer support time, which is in effect overtime. So officers are already doing their hours and they are filled, and more often than not on particular projects like the neighbourhood plan go over their hours, which is what you see on the budget under officer support. So either officers are paid to do more hours, or those hours are given to a new officer. The point with the new officer being that they are an expert hired specifically for this role. All our reports and documents in climate change plans and actions require each and every officer to include in their work ways to be more appreciative of what's necessary to combat climate change. So the whole of the council does and will continue to take it as a holistic approach, everybody working towards the climate change agenda. What an extra officer does is focus the particular tasks that officers might have to do above and beyond, such as liaising with outside organisations, and concentrate them in one job role. So I'm firmly in favour of keeping that item in the budget, purely because this is one of the most important things that we'll ever do, doing our bit to fight climate change. And it's absolutely imperative that, and if you'll excuse my language, we don't do this half-assed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Kenyon, any further comments?
I would sort of support that. I think, as you say, it's just an important thing. It's amazing how I've got Joe Biden back in power and all these. Won't go into those areas, but it's an area which we just don't know what the heck's going to happen in the future. But I think having a dedicated person for this position is such an important position. And hopefully in 5 years' time, we're in a position where we would have been could have been in 20, 30 years ago, but I doubt it. But I would certainly support staying in. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Naggs, any further comments?
Yeah, I agree with what's just the last two speakers as well, wholeheartedly. I just, as a matter of clarification, my brain's gone a bit fuzzy, but people have talked about a good case has been made, but where was the case made and which committee agreed it? I just would like that as clarity. And a bit of a mischievous point, but I hope this officer doesn't travel every day from Newcastle in a diesel car. How can, it might end up causing more problems than it's worth.
Thank you, Councillor Naggs. Charlie, did you have anything further to say? Councillor Shepherd?
Yes, I support this. I was a little bit doubtful about this when it first came up in Finance Committee and things, but I think it's important. There's going to be, as people say, extra work to be done, and rather than spread that among each individual officer doing more, and then as Councillor Davis has said, there's going to have to be a lot of coordination, cooperation and working with other organisations, starting with Eton District, and there are people doing the same thing. And it'll be very difficult for each individual officer to work with this. We need a single point of contact to coordinate all the efforts. And also, and because I come from the private enterprise part of the world, I'd like to see a single officer who is responsible / accountable for delivering what we're trying to deliver. Otherwise it's spread out over a whole lot of people, and to use the thing, it went that way. So, if you know what I mean. So I support this. Originally there was talk about outsourcing this, and I was very much against that. But I think this is we need the extra resource, and rather than spread it among the people, it'd be better to have a single person who hopefully is very experienced and qualified in this type of work, and will be the person who is answerable to the council for delivery of the answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Shepherd, any further comments?
Just to add my support, we are looking for somebody with a special skill set, and to expect existing officers to produce those skills out of nowhere is not really fair. But also I think we're quite parsimonious. We have 7 officers, which only adds up to 4 full-time posts, just about. So there's only another half post on top of that. And for Councillor Naggs, I have a bike they could borrow if necessary.
Thank you. Councillor Snell, any further comments?
I just wanted to say that the officers that we currently have are overstretched. So I think this is really important. And we agreed to focus on climate change. We called a climate emergency. And so I think we need an expert. And I think we do need to be careful how we recruit, not careful. We need to be clear when we recruit the skill set that we are expecting. And I would support having an officer for 21 hours. Thank you.
Okay. I think that's everybody. I don't think I've missed anybody out. So I think we can move to a vote for item 5. Just to read it out again, we're voting to approve the addition to the establishment of a part-time officer on scale SCP3, 21 hours per week on a 5-year fixed term from the 1st of April 2021, with the post being filled as soon as possible after that date. And just for further clarification, that's at no further cost to the people of Penrith. So I'll go round and I'll ask each of you to vote in turn. Councillor Clark, for, against or abstain?
Against.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Davis?
Against the creation of a new rule.
Thank you. Councillor Fallows?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Kenyon?
For.
Councillor Naggs?
For.
Councillor Shepherd?
C. Shepherd, for.
Thank you. Councillor M. Shepherd?
For.
And Councillor Snell?
Sorry, lost my mute button. For.
Thank you. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 votes for, 2 votes against, and that is duly carried. Okay, so then we move on to the other items, which are items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Do we need any further discussion on those items, Ian? Or can I just move?
You went round before and members were asked to ask any questions on the budget paper, so you are entitled now to go to the vote on those 9 items.
Okay, Councillor Snell, you've got your hand up.
Yes, looking at the pink sheet, and I'm not going to mention anyone's salaries, but the posts, I need clarity on the anagrams for things. Can I get that at a later time?
Yes, you can. Yeah. I'll email you them this evening.
Thank you very much, Ian. That would be helpful.
Thank you. Okay, so
I think it'd be a good idea when we publish these things to put the anagrams in, because I had to ask them last time anyway.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree. Okay, so just to reiterate, we're voting on all the items except for item 5, which we've already passed. And I'll go around and call you out each in turn. If you could just say for, against, or abstain. So, Councillor Clark.
Abstain.
Abstain. Councillor Davis.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Fallows.
For.
Councillor Hawkins. Councillor Hawkins.
Sorry, for.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Kenyon.
For.
Councillor Naggs.
For.
Councillor Shepherd C.
For.
Councillor Shepherd M.
For.
And Councillor Snell.
For.
Okay, so that's 9 for and 1 abstention. So that's duly carried as well. We have a budget, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, item number 11 is a motion from Councillor Davis with regard to assets of community value. This is to ratify a motion from Councillor Davis, which I'm going to hand over to him to describe to you.
That's right. I'm just having an issue finding the papers, Chair.
No worries. Take time.
So much of the budget to scroll through.
Page 81. Councillor Davis, page 81.
Yeah, thank you. I will get there eventually. There we go. Yeah. Basically, the motion's calling it has been before Finance, who supported it. As you'll be aware, there's changes happening within local government, and the motion is proposing that we register, or asking the council to register as community assets, the Tourist Information Centre, Penrith Museum, formerly known as Robinson School, and Penrith Town Hall as assets of community value, so that should the time come, we can move to protect them and keep them as assets for the town. The motion is as presented.
Okay, I'll second that from the chair. So does anybody have any questions? I will start with Councillor Clark. Do you have any questions on the motion?
I'm a bit disappointed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, it's okay. That the 2 lions hasn't been added to this list. I know it's still up in the air as regards its usage, but what are everybody else's thoughts on this one?
I guess we'll find out as we go round, Margaret. Councillor, no, not Councillor Davis, Councillor Fallows.
No, I don't have questions on it. Sorry, my sound wasn't working properly, so I didn't hear it. But this was this with the community assets.
It is, yeah.
Being added. Yeah, no, I think that's good. Yeah, they are community assets. That's good.
Okay.
Sorry.
Councillor Hawkins, any comments or questions or answers? I'm looking at the screen. I've lost Nicola's video. Are you still with us, Councillor Hawkins? Okay, we'll come back. Councillor Jackson, you had your hand up.
Yes, so as you'll all be aware, I've been the lead member on devolution for quite some time, and all these assets that Eden District Council currently own, we have a list of items that we want to discuss devolution with, such as the town hall and all the other wonderful things in Penrith. This is an excellent motion which I supported at finance, and what it does is it just provides that that extra safety net to assets in the town should a new organisation consume rather the district council into its body and wish to dispose of Penrith assets in a manner that makes devolution impossible. Ideally, I would have loved the town, or will still want the town hall to come over to the town council at nil cost or at £1 cost as part of the devolution process. All the assets are the same, but should events overtake us, it'd be fantastic to have this protection that should a new organisation come along and decide to dispose of the asset, the community does have the opportunity to step in, and the community should always have the opportunity to step in. As to Councillor Clark's question and suggestion, absolutely, the two lines should, of course, be considered in the same breath. I support the motion as it is, and a future motion to seek asset of community value for the two lines as well.
Thank you. Councillor Kenyon, any comments?
I think I would agree that. Yeah, I think it's important that all these assets are there. It just gives extra security for the assets, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future, unitary authority and whatever, who knows what, but it's all in the air, and I think having these in place would help. Now, certainly, if we have to second or whatever support Margaret, Councillor Clark's suggestion of the two lions as well, because it's been sat there for long enough, and the roof there it's a sort of grade 1 listed roof, ceiling, and grade 2 listed building, and it just seems to sit there doing nothing. And it's a very central point in that area, sort of it's becoming more of an important area of the town, and it's an area that we must be able to do something with it and move things on, and hopefully soon things can happen. So yeah, thank you.
Councillor Naggs.
No comments.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd. Charlie, you're on mute.
I totally agree on the Robinson School, and I support very much Councillor Clark's view on the two lands. I'm slightly sceptical about the town hall, because it's a listed building anyway, and would we ever, as town council, be able to have a use for it? It's rather bigger. It's also not suitable as an office building already.
Okay. Councillor Mike Shepherd.
Support the motion and support what Margaret Clark said about the two lines.
Okay. Councillor Snell.
I would like to support the motion, but I would like to disagree, I think, slightly with Charlie, because I think the town hall could be a brilliant community hub. Other other towns like Appleby have them, and I think it would be a brilliant town hub to have all sorts of things happening there. And it could be included in the cultural strategy as well, you know, if we have control over it, which is what I think is being said.
Okay, I think that's everyone has spoken. Just for my own clarification, Ian, if somebody was to propose that we added the two lions to the motion, is that is that doable, or do we need to have it as a separate?
Councillor Clark could bring it forward as an amendment. We'd need it to be seconded. Personally, from an officer perspective, I would prefer to consider tonight's motions and then work with Councillor Clark outside of this to bring a researched and stronger worded motion that's got that backing of research to a future meeting, if that was okay. That would be my preference from an office perspective.
No, good answer. Thank you. Okay, Scott, you've got your hand up. Did you have another question?
Yeah, just in response to Charlie, that seeking to name something as an asset of community value doesn't mean we need to have a use for it. But 3-4 years from now, if we did have a use for it and we didn't have asset for community value, then we would be stuck.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, you've got your hand up and you're on mute. You're on mute, Margaret. We can't hear you.
We've just mentioned buildings to date. Now, what about land? Or would that be a subject for another meeting or for some future event?
Well, we have protected a lot of green space around Penrith already with previous motions.
And that's weathering.
But yeah, okay. Well, then I would suggest a future meeting. Yeah.
Right. That's okay. Something needs to be done about that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we're voting on the motion to put forward these two particular buildings as community assets. We've had our discussion, so I'll just go around in turn. If you could just say for, against, or abstain. Councillor Clark.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Fallows.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Kenyon.
For.
Councillor Naggs.
For.
Councillor C. Shepherd.
For.
Councillor M. Shepherd.
For.
Councillor Snell.
For.
Thank you. That's carried unanimously, which moves us on to item 12, which is new business. Just to note that the Services and Contracts Manager has successfully attained the Certificate in Local Council Administration, I think it's colloquially known as SILCA. Well done, Ian. Congratulations. I'm sure the others will all add their congratulations in due course as well. Item 13, the A66 Community Liaison Group. To note that an officer has been invited to attend the A66 Community Liaison Group and to appoint a member to represent the council on the A66 Liaison Group.
Yeah, can I just give you some more background on this?
Yes, of course you can.
Highways England contacted us just before Christmas, the A66 Northern Trans-Pennine project team, to say that they were now looking to start the statutory consultation on the A66 project. They announced their preferred route for the project and the preferred layout of the roads around Penrith in May last year, but they're now looking to do more. As part of the statutory consultation, they want to engage with all the communities along the route as well as Penrith, but they're setting up community liaison groups all along that group. The groups are going to meet regularly to allow them to understand the concerns and wishes of the local communities and give people the chance to ask questions or get input from other experts. They requested an officer to be involved, and we went back to them to ask whether a member could be involved in that group as well, and they've confirmed that that would be something that they would do. So we're looking for one member to sit on those groups. We don't know as yet how often they're going to meet or when they're going to meet, but they are likely to be daytime meetings.
Okay, thank you, Ros. So we need to second the motion, according to my notes, which doesn't seem quite right somehow. But can we have somebody to second that? Oh, look, we've got lots of hands up. Okay, I'll take Councillor Davis as a seconder. So are there any volunteers? First things first.
I would consider myself a volunteer.
Okay.
Chair.
Councillor Snell, you've got your hand up.
I was going to volunteer, but if Charlie wants to do it, he's got much more experience about engineering and roads than I have.
Okay. And Councillor Jackson, you've got your hand up.
Yes, it was just to nominate Councillor Shepherd, so volunteering does that for me.
Excellent. Okay. Is there anyone else other than Councillor Shepherd? Make things nice and straightforward. I think we can do we just have a straight vote on that then? All those in favour? Any against? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay, carried unanimously.
Mr. Chair, would Councillor
Yes.
Snell be prepared to be standing deputy, therefore, in Councillor Shepherd's absence?
Yes, as long as Charlie's happy for that.
Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate
Brilliant.
it.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you. Okay. So that brings us to the late item 14, which is the Borderlands Place Programme Town Team. Ian, who was going to present this one?
It's me again, Chair.
Thanks, Ross. Go ahead.
We were in a meeting last week with County Council and Eden District Council, and they mentioned that they were going to start on the Penrith Borderland Place plan. It's part of the Borderlands growth deal. It brings together Carlisle City Council, the County Council, various other councils, and place plans sit within the quality of place building block part of the deal. We're one of the towns that a place plan will be created for, and Cumbria County Council have already they've already engaged consultants to start working on a place plan. Place plans will be required for each town. They'll very much be developed with the local community and stakeholders, and will seek to identify and seek support for a range of projects that will happen within the town. The objectives of the place plan are to have a holistic vision for the town's future, to coordinate multiple investments and engage with external partners and local communities. The Thinking Place are the consultants who've been instructed as the consultants. So the next part is that to develop a Penrith town team who will look to take this forward, and there'll be a project group of the Penrith Town Working Group in the same sort of way that looking at the interventions of part of the Penrith Parking and Movement Study will be project groups as well. There's going to be officers and members from County Council, Eden District Council, Penrith Town Council, representatives from the Penrith Bid, Industrial Bid, Penrith Chamber of Trade, plus numerous community organisations who have yet to be confirmed. But at the meeting last week, they said that they wanted up to 15 representatives there from the community organisations. So it's to look for 3 members to sit on the project group as part of the Borderlands Place team. Got to stress this is still the very start of the project. Communication with partners and residents will be crucial throughout the development of this. And once the town team has been formulated, there needs to be time to for them to agree the communication channels and how they're going to take this forward.
Thank you. Do you have any kind of idea of the time scales for this in terms of how long it's likely to run for? I finger in the air a bit, isn't it?
It is a little bit. I haven't. They didn't mention that last week, and Carol may know, but she's having problems connecting at the moment. So.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we're suggesting that we have 3 members join this group. So that's the proposed motion, which I will put forward. Do we have somebody to second before we go into discussion? Thank you, Councillor Davis. And we'll start with questions or comments from Councillor Clark, please. Are you with us, Margaret?
No, I'm sorry, I haven't any questions on this one
Okay.
at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, questions, comments?
Yeah, it's just a question. Do we have it? Obviously, this is got representatives from the town council, etc. Are there any terms of reference that we are going to require to approve for it, or?
They will sit. It will be a project group as part of the Penrith Town Working Group. We've already got terms of reference for the Penrith Town Working Group and the project groups, but it'll be something that will be looked at the first meeting as well, because this is quite a big project.
Okay. Councillor Fallows, any questions or comments? We've lost him. Can't see him on my screen. Okay.
I'm just readmitting him. I'm just.
Thank you. All right. Councillor Hawkins, while we're waiting, any questions from you?
Yes, could I ask the Deputy Town Clerk, do we know when would these be daytime meetings?
They would be daytime meetings, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fallows, are you with us now? Still? Yes, he is. I can see him there. Any questions?
No, I caught some of that, but I lost the sound, so I had to leave and come back in. But I don't have any questions, no.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jackson, any questions or comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kenyon, questions, comments? Thank you. Councillor Naggs.
I was just interested in if we had any examples of the, Rose mentioned a range of projects, and I'm just wondering what that range of projects might look like.
It's going to be something that the consultants will work on with the group.
I've lost my sound.
I guess my question is what is the scope of the action that this group could? I'm trying to get a sense of what these range of projects might look like. What, anything at all? I haven't got a clue what they could look like, what this group could achieve, and what the kind of difference they could make.
I think the range of projects is very varied. I haven't got a list in front of me. I haven't got that information from the County Council, but the projects and the range of the project is something that the consultants will go through at the first meeting of the group to explain the sorts of things that could be brought forward. What the place plan is wanting to achieve is it's wanting to identify a range of projects wider than those schemes that are eligible for Borderlands investment, because it's something that can be carried forward in future. I don't know any more than that at the present time, but I know that the consultants will be going through that at the first meeting when the group's pulled together.
Thank you. Councillor C. Shepherd, any questions or comments?
No questions, but I fully support this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mike Shepherd.
No questions.
Thank you. And Councillor Snell, questions?
Just one question. When you mention investment, what kind of investment are we talking about? Just a couple of thousand, or, you know, tens of thousands?
It's a lot more than a couple of thousand, but I haven't got that exact information with me.
That's fine. Thank you. So it's bigger than just little pots. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion, we've had it seconded. We're looking for nominations. I'm guessing volunteers. Councillors Hawkins, Davis and Snell. Any others? I can't see any others. No, you're on mute, Hilary.
I wanted to propose someone.
Okay, who are you proposing?
Which Dave Naggs.
Okay, so I've got Councillor Naggs.
Mine was also a nomination.
Okay, for
Councillor Naggs.
Okay. And Councillor Davis, you had your hand up. Were you nominating or were you volunteering?
I was volunteering.
Okay, so that's two by my count. Do we have another one to make up the three?
I can make the third one up if you want, if there's any way. Happy to do that.
Okay. Well, I'll nominate you then, Ron, just to make it all above board. So that's councillors Kenyon, Nags, and Davis. Are there any others?
I don't think Councillor Davis has a nominator, and if it doesn't, I shall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So Councillor Jackson's nominating Councillor Davis. Okay. So that's.
Can we have someone to second them then, all on mass?
Yeah.
I'll second them all.
Thank you.
Second the nomination. And then
Brilliant. And then we just need a vote, do we, Ian?
vote in favour of Councillor Niles, Councillor Davis, Councillor Kenyon.
Okay, well, let's do it with a show of hands. All those in favour? Anyone against? Speak up now. No? Okay, that's duly carried unanimously. And that was the last item on our agenda. So that just remains for me to thank you all for your attendance and to note that the next meeting is scheduled for the 29th of March 2021. It says 2 p.m. here. Not quite sure why. I think that's a typo.
That's a typo.
It should be 6 p.m. And unless things have changed dramatically before then, I would imagine that we probably will be in video conference. Thank you all very much for your attendance.